These are the spots where I've over drilled and filled with epoxy for my new solar panel arch to go. I had to fill in the old deck cleats and I'm going to relocate them right there, so I've over drilled and filled those holes as well. The only problem is there's a bit of a gap. So I'm going to try to use my my 3D printer to print out some pads. Just need to measure that gap there and then take it to the 3D modeling. Some folks are interested in the 3D modeling software I'm using, and it's called Fusion 360. It's made by Autodesk, and this software is pretty cool. It's very similar to one I used to use in college called SolidWorks. Basically, you start by making 2D sketches, and then you'll extrude it into 3D or loft it. So I got my little cheat sheet with all my details. So we want it to be 4 inches tall, and then, oops, I want it to be just 2 inches wide. And it looks like we're working in millimeters, so we'll just switch the units. Switch to inches. Okay, that looks better for me. And the hole's gonna be, wait, that big. Then I just draw some more circles and specify how far from the edges. So now that we've got it in our 2D sketch finished, we're just going to extrude it out into 3D. So you just hit this button and then we extrude it out. So the distance we want it to be is 0.6 minus the thickness 0.2. And that. So now I went to the side plane and I made another sketch that's just going to cut it at the right angles we wanted. And we'll just click the extrude and click on our profile we want to cut with and just zip. And it looks like we need to go back a little bit, so we can just do what is it, direction, symmetric, there we go. And so that cuts it off. And then just to kind of give it a nice little finishing touch, we'll add a little bit of radiuses. And then you can drag them in. Looks about right. So all I gotta do now is export it as an STL, and then I'll open my 3D printer slicer program. This will just let us cut the file up into the pieces we need. This program here is called Prusa Slicer, and what you do is you just bring in your file and inches, and then there's our file. You can see it looks how we want. So then make sure we're printing the right material. I'll use ASA because that's supposed to be UV resistant. We're using a 0.3 millimeter resolution. I'm using a 0.6 nozzle. Everything looks good, so I just click slice, and then what it does, you can see it cuts it up into these layers. And we want this to be real strong, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to printer settings or print settings maybe, and I'm going to add a few more parameters. Let's add slice it again, and let's add a little more infill. Let's add 75% infill. Slice now. So these pieces are going to cost $1.74 each of material, and they're going to take 2.5 hours each to print, but they should be real strong. So now we just go to the 3D printer and we let him do his thing. My filament sounds like it has some moisture in it, like it's kind of bubbling and popping, you can see. So I'm not sure if this one will work out, but I do have a filament dryer coming in the mail very soon, so we can't wait to try that one out. I gotta give a big thanks to Matter Hackers for supplying my filament. Pretty cool little machine. Home stretch. Well, not really, 44 minutes. My little 3D printed standoffs look like they fit pretty good. So I'm gonna drill these out. Take it. All right, the arch is mounted. That thing is so solid. You can hold on to here and it just shakes the whole boat. Mom's gonna help me clean out the water tanks. These are pretty dirty inside. I never try to drink out of these too much. Maybe I will be after. Uh-oh. Ah! I'm gonna put these inspection hatches onto the water tank so we can get in there and clean it a little better. The only thing is when you put your arm through it, there's these kind of sharp edges, so I'm just gonna grind those down. I pulled off the old fill for the water tank, and I'm gonna take this to the hardware store and see if I can find a plug so I can plug up the fill. I'm going to just be filling it up from the inspection port on top. So there is an extra seacock down there, and it's even got a hose on it. Right now it was just plugged up, but I pulled out the plug, or cut the hose, and I'm gonna put this filter on it, and then from that filter I'm going to run an extra foot pump and an extra little spigot. So then I'll have, these are both fresh water, so that will pump in salt water in my sink so I can do the dishes with salt water. That's probably my biggest consumption of water is washing and things like that. So that will allow me to have much smaller water tanks or go for a lot longer on the current water I have. Alright, I got the filter on, and now I just need to feed this tube back behind the sink. And I think these other tubes already go there, so hopefully it can just follow suit. So this pump needs to be mounted back behind here, and there's these 3 holes. They're kind of weirdly spaced, so I made this little template to help me find where they go. So I'm just gonna drill some big holes with this bit first, and then I figure out where the smaller holes go. So I'm going to go right here. Okay, we get our holes drilled. Come on, you. Go on in there. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Looks good. That actually went on easier than I thought it would. So then, just have to put this pedal on there. Sweet. I think that'll work. Let's see if I got the hose connected to the right side, so it should blow air. Now I just need to find a spigot for the salt water. I might see if I can scavenge one from one of those hurricane wrecked boats. There are around here. So here's my old battery setup. I'm kind of just filming this so I can take note of how everything was wired. These boxes aren't really mounted in here very good. And I was gifted a really big 200 amp hour battery. So I'm just gonna replace these two with that battery. So David's helping to build a battery box, and this is this 200 amp hour monster. It weighs over 100 pounds, and I'm using AGM instead of lithium. Battery box coming along. I'm having John drill some holes in the bottom because these boxes always seem to fill up with water on me, and you really don't want to have to take them out to empty them. This is an incredibly square box. Wouldn't have been like that if I made it. Alright, the new battery box is in, and this battery is a beast. It weighs like over 100 pounds. Here's how the battery is secured down. It's pretty secure in here. And I'm going to redo these hinges. Finally, they've been off the boat for like 6 months, and I'm putting beetle tape on them because it seems to get a lot of water in my battery box, and it kind of corroded my shunt over there. So this should make that a little better. Positioning these hatches always ends up difficult because like they try to grab on like these lips. The wood's kind of rotting away in here, so I'm gonna pour some epoxy in there, see if I can stiffen it up a little. I'm gonna re-drill these holes again. This over here too. A lot of water I've been getting in here, obviously. So it's filled. I figured I'd put some glass here just to stiffen it up a little more. That hardened up pretty quick and it feels super strong. Put this on here. And, I think I'm going to take these latches off maybe, because I was down in here the other day and it closed and latched and locked me in. And luckily someone was here to let me out, but I would have been stuck. I don't think I've ever had a hatch that feels this solid now. Really having those bedded in there and bolted securely seems good. With that extra glass, makes these so much sturdier. So I remove the old latches, and on the inside I'm going to put this pad eye that will allow me to lash the hatch down from the inside. I'm going to replace these little hooks with these pad eyes, and they're not quite, the holes aren't quite the same. So I think I can maybe just squeeze them together. So they can reuse the same holes. Getting pretty close, just a little bit further. Here's the before and the after, and now the holes are the same position, so I can reuse it. I'm gonna build a bag for my series drug. I've been keeping this kind of vacuum packed bag, just kind of compress it and make so it didn't take up so much room, but they always end up losing their vacuum seal. And in this way, it was kind of stored out of the way and hard to get to. With the bag I'm gonna build now, it's gonna be made of canvas and then mesh on the bottom to let it drain. The series drug itself is just like a long rope. I used Dyneema because it needs to be very, very strong, but I didn't want to take up quite as much rope and quite as much room on the boat. And if you use nylon, it needs to be a really thick rope. And basically it's a long rope with all these little cone parachutes. And I sewed these on myself for my previous boat. And it's basically just trails off the back of your boat on two really strong chain plates. And you might use this if you were in a storm and there was a risk of the boat kind of pitch pulling, somersaulting over. It would just kind of slow the boat down and keep it from rolling over. And then you attach like a chain or some weights on the bottom just to keep it in the water. But I like it to be, in the cockpit, accessible, ready to deploy anytime I need it, and always just attached to the boat. So it should be a simple matter of deploying it if it ever comes down to it. So let's get started. So just taking some measurements on this guy. I'm thinking the bag will either go behind this anchor or maybe over here, somewhere like that. But there should be plenty of room for it. And that should allow me to attach the attachment chain plates right there and keep it always connected. So here's my little sketch of acrylic canvas up here and then Vipertex mesh on the bottom. Bag is sewn. I'm just gonna box off these edges here to get a nice square shape. Now I'm sewing the lid on, and that should be pretty much the end. I'll probably put a couple of snaps on it. Oh, put it on backwards. All right, this little bag is finished. Let's see if this thing fits in there. I just pulled this thing out of the vacuum bag. It's kind of interesting. It's very damp. So I think it's good that I made this new bag that has the mesh bottom so it can dry out completely. And so this end is the bridle. These attach to the two chain plates on either side. And I'm going to leave enough room so I can attach those to the boat. And then I'm just going to stuff it one end at a time into the bag. And the trick is not to coil it, just to kind of just let it go in there gradually on its own accord. Just sounds similar like you're doing an anchor. If you try to coil it, it will only end up tangling. Just kind of stuff one end at a time into the bag. Here's the bag all filled up, and you can see there's quite a bit of extra room in there, and I left that for two things. This series drogue was originally sized for my Ranger, and the Cape Dory is a little heavier, so I wanted, in the future, I want to add an extra, maybe a couple 100 feet of rope and some more cones, maybe another 75 cones or so, just to account for the bigger and heavier boat. And also, I want to add some chain or like lead weights or something, just so I don't have to attach that in the heat of the moment. But so there's just a little bit of headroom for that in the future, but I think this will work really nicely. It's got nice canvas to keep, the sun from damaging it, and then it can drain out on the bottom. I still haven't quite worked out how it's going to attach, but I have these little straps. I was thinking I'd do the common sense like twist fasteners and just go around the railing in the back of the boat. I'm going to put a little patch on the jib. This area kind of is wearing through.
So here's our ultimate test of the Sailrite fabricator. We got a lot of layers of fabric. Probably 4 layers of canvas and maybe 7 of sailcloth.
Oh, no problem. So this is my spotlight, and we're going to put this on the front here, and that'll be for coming into mooring fields and anchorages and unfamiliar places at night. Makes a huge difference. The key is mounting it way up on the front of the pulpit so it's in front of the rigging, because if you mount it further back, it lights up the rigging, the furler, the anchor, all that stuff, and it kills your night vision, and so you're not actually able to see what you're shining the light at. Out of that side. I couldn't figure out why this light wasn't working, and I took it off, and look, I wired it up backwards. Dope. The spotlight is finally working. That thing is gonna be so bright at night. Thanks for watching. I've been experimenting with doing like daily vlog videos on my over on my Patreon website, and I've been liking that. It makes it a little easier to edit, just going kind of just strictly chronological over the projects I'm working on for a single day, as opposed to what I'm doing now. It's just kind of tedious to keep track of all these projects that span multiple weeks, sometimes months, and then try to get all the footage together and make it make sense into a single video. So we'll probably start migrating towards that direction in the next few videos. And it might be more frequent videos. It makes editing a lot easier. I can edit a video in 30 minutes versus sometimes these videos take 2 or 3 hours. So until then, I'll see you guys next time.